If the freedom movement is the only thing standing in front of us in New York City,
Foreign or domestic? Who do you serve? You serve the state. You serve the New World Order.
episode 12 with my sister TX Cutie. TX Cutie is a military veteran, a freedom fighter, and friend. TX, thanks for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me, friend. Like I told you, I have no problem having any type of conversations with anybody, no matter how crazy or outlandish they may sound. Conversations are what bridge those gaps, my brother. So
100%.
What's going on?
Listen, I have you on because me and you have been speaking behind the scenes for about 3 years. We have a IG relationship, right? And we see things very similar. We believe that there's some type of military operation happening in the back. We touch base on those things. But the reason I bring you on today is because you were actually in the military. You are a Marine. And so I think you have a little more insight with that type of information and how you take in the information. So that's why I joined you. I asked you to join today.
Okay, all right. Well, great. Well, I hope I can give a little bit of perspective to anybody that is still a little either on the fence or they're not really sure how to take in information. Hey, all I can do is provide you with my perspective.
Awesome. First, let's start with your background in the military. What was exactly your background in the military?
So I actually worked with the Air Wing. I was an Air Winger. I got to work with the Ospreys. I don't know if you know what those are, but it has a tilt rotary blades. And it's that awesome little bird that when you see it come up, the blades come up, they rotate down and they spin. And that's what I did. I got to be around a lot of pilots. I got to do a lot of different ops and briefings and stuff of that nature. And it was a great time. I mean, I would do it all over again. Definitely got to see a lot of interesting places, got to meet some amazing people from many different countries and to kind of see how different they are with their culture, how they treat their troops, how they are just in operations in general, how organized they are, things of that nature. So it really was an interesting experience just to see how everyone works and operates differently. So it really just shows you that in spite of what a lot of people may think, in spite of everyone trying to make America the villain, believe it or not, America actually has the least amount of blood on their hands in terms of conflicts. And I know that people that don't want to hear that, they think that we're the big bad, but the big issue there and what's so conflicting and extremely contradicting, if you think about it, is people want America to be the world's police. They do. Let's just be honest. They want us to kind of keep everyone in check, and not even talking about the recent conflicts now, which that's not recent. That's a religious war that's going to keep happening until, both sides agree to stop. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about overall, people want America to be the world's police. They want us to be big brother. They want us to make sure that nobody kills each other. And then in the same breath, they want us to be out of all conflicts. Do not interfere. Let's leave everyone alone. Let's let everyone liberate themselves. I'm all for that ideal. However, we kind of have to figure out which side of the fence do we kind of want to be on in terms of some of these conflicts. I've been consistent. I think that we need to address America's problems first before we go out and we try to address any other nation's conflict. A lot of their conflicts have nothing to do with us. A lot of their conflicts have been going on since even before America was even thought to be a nation. So overall, I would say that in terms of us being the big bad and everything, it's really not us. Everyone has committed some sort of atrocious crime.
Let's we're going to unpack that. See, the thing with America, and since you brought it up, the thing with America, I believe, is, it's what we're learning, right? This is like, you said privately today, something that was so powerful. And you said, everybody's just waking up right now. So for anybody to act like a expert at anything or try to use information against somebody else, we have to have compassion because we were rocked to sleep, just like you explained. And I think part of this awakening, what we're realizing is, we have men and women like yourself that honorably served our nation and were willing to give their lives for our country. And my wife and I hold that very dear to our family, that we understand at least a piece of what it means to someone to sign up and give their lives to that country on the basis of freedom. We had bankers that controlled this military industrial complex that use those feelings of you brave men and women to go into other nations for resources. And we're waking up to this. We're realizing that, hopefully that we wake up to this awakening that people don't go to Israel or people don't go to Ukraine right now for these exact reasons. You being in the Marines, I know you've done the education. I know you know the Great Awakening information. Finding out that the Iraqi war or what happened in 9/11 as a Marine, as a person that would be dropped off first, right? That's what you guys are. You guys are the bad boys on the street. How does that make you feel when we find out that maybe we were lied to about why we went into these wars?
Well, it definitely is a mixed bag. And when I say that, meaning that there are some people that serve that never want to even think that they were taken advantage of, because it's easier to fool a person than to convince a person that they've been fooled. So that in itself is very hard to deal with for some people. Others, they have this viewpoint of, well, this is what I signed up for. I'm not proud of myself, but this is what it is. And it is very disheartening. It is very sickening to look back and think of everything that was done that had nothing to do with us. And once you get through the mindset of just being logical and not being emotional, it makes it a lot easier to really take in. It takes it a lot easier. It's a lot easier to process. And what I mean by that is, logically speaking, every nation that has ever come to be has done some atrocious or disgusting thing to show their dominance, I would say. Every nation has done some sort of heinous crime to one another in the name of either religion, politics, or resources. So if you think of it in that aspect, it makes it a little bit easier, but at the same time, you're still disgusted because they did take your time. They did lie to you. They did take your money. And you got to think that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? And the difference between a Democrat pushing you into war and the difference between a Republican pushing you into war, because make no mistake, both of them will do it.
That's right, Queen.
The Democrats pushing you into war is they are trying to, for whatever reason, it's more of like a manipulation. It's more so kind of pushing you, pulling at your heartstrings a little bit. But the problem is that's already been kind of tired out. You don't really see that the patriotic push as what you see with the other side. Just think about 9/11. So 9/11 was more geared towards a patriotic, duty, a patriotic, just pushed into you thinking, hey, you know what? We've got to protect our family. We've got to protect our, our country. And that's really what got everyone into that whole situation with Iraq, with Afghanistan, was that emotional pulling of the heartstrings, the emotional manipulation, the patriotic manipulation is what I call it. Is the reality is you don't care about those men and women that you're sending into this. You don't care about the innocent people that are not involved in this, that are in those other countries. You care about making it known that they have something that you want. So whether or not how you're pushing someone into it is all about what type of manipulation tactics are you going to use. And right now, the type of the manipulation tactics that are being used is not necessarily patriotic, because obviously what we've seen, the radical left does not go towards that type of style. That doesn't suit them, right?
It's a different tool. That's
exactly. So now they have to do the religious manipulation, which is, oh my God, these poor children. Oh, these children, it's like, you really don't care. But this is a way to spark controversy. This is a way to manipulate people. It's no different than 2020 with, BLM. It's the same thing. That is this season's black square.
Right. Yeah, the different tools for different people. I think you're touching on when you look out, it depends on if you have a Republican mentality or Democratic mentality. Like the same reason why Ukraine just worked for the left and Israel works for the right. You see, it's hey, Bill said this. I had a retired sergeant on last, and he said, he goes, these people are genius. They're sinister and they're nefarious, but they're fucking genius. I mean, the way they play us, and you know, like I know, because we've spoke about it many times, brother Don as well. Like we're watching our conservative brothers and sisters like get pulled right in.
Fall
Like
into a trap.
the holy wars. I mean, the conservative party went from like, yes, like we're awake to the truth, and now we're ready for war. We're ready to go, you know, and it's
100%.
What happened? We just spent the last 2 years waking up. What happened? So
I think it's like a knee-jerk reaction for some of them, and this is where religious manipulation can be extremely dangerous. And this is why the separation of church and state is so important, because in Europe it's not like that. In Europe, whatever the church decides, that's what the government will do. And you're seeing a lot of that in the UK. You see it in Italy. You see it in France. It's very dangerous. And this is why when we're talking about freedom of religion, every religion is going to be different. Every religion is going to have their own set of, I'd say moral compasses and conditions and principles, but you have to keep those separate from your government, because not every single person is going to follow the same line.
100%. And it's so important. And that's why the forefathers had it. Listen, the forefathers were, I think we spoke about this as well. They were Masons, right? Some of them may have not even believed in Jesus and stuff like that, but they understood freedom of religion because of the old country. What you're talking about. Man, you know your shit. You know your shit, TX. Let me tell you, you know your shit. You know your shit. That's exactly. And Rome, Rome started forcing religious. This is God's law. You better listen to God's law. We'll arrest you, So
exactly.
England did it. They took, the transatlantic slave trade. They forced the Bibles. The Protestants forced the Bibles onto the slaves. I mean, we can go on and on and on. The Moors with the Quran, the Muslims. So we have men using religion to
do their bidding.
Yeah. And it's very dangerous. I believe with 9/11, they that's how they tried to twist the Christians and the Muslims, and now we're seeing it in real time, right? We're seeing in real time that they're going to war, and then they're bringing the people here. So now they're bringing Palestinians here that just lost their houses.
Yep.
I'm sure they're not going to be so patriotic about America. You see, and it's
not at all. And it's just creating more conflict. And the religious war, and people, again, they don't agree, they don't like it, but this is a religious war. This has been a religious war since the dawn of time. They've been fighting each other since the dawn of time, and they're all fighting each other based on their text of what their religious leaders are telling them how to treat everybody else. How do you control a mass group of people? You find a group of devout followers that will just hang on every word that you say. And then you go into their text, you manipulate their text, you leave things out, you rewrite things to suit whatever narrative you want to push. Yep. How would I start a religious war? I'm going to write in my ancient text how you hate the other side and how you're the true people of this place.
That's right. And
how many different versions do you have of much religious text stating that this specific group of people are the ones? How easy would it be for me to start a war with you if all I had to do was just mess with your text? It's really not that complicated. And the more devout that someone is in their beliefs, the more extreme that they are, the more disgusting things they will do in the name of their religion.
Powerful piece. We're seeing that, man. When you get to the brass tacks of it, the Jewish people believe that they are the chosen people. The Christians believe the Old Testament and created this New Testament when Jesus came. The Jews believe Jesus was a blasphemous man. So immediately when you get to the brass tacks of it, the Jewish religion and the Christian religion could be used against each other. So now you have these two brothers, and now you can, like you said, manipulate that text and have them fighting. And that's what's been happening for hundreds of years. It's really sad. And it's very different than like a Republican Democrat fight. This is something that goes back to something very deeper. And this is why it's dangerous, because now they're talking about, if I don't extort my neighbor, they're gonna come after me. And we're in alarming times when it comes to that. On a higher note, you do believe that there is a military operation happening possibly in the background. Being in the military, can you give us a little perspective on how you see things going on in America and what could be happening in the background?
Well, there's always going to be some sort of operation that's happening behind you, regardless of whether you want to believe it or not, regardless of whether you think it's a conspiracy, it's real, it's fake.
Now, what you do have to understand is if it's so easy for you to pick up on it, if you think that you just know all of it, you know it in and out, up, down, sideways, left, right, then that means that they're not doing a good enough job. Because that means if you know, that means your enemy knows. And if your enemy knows, well, then the plan has just gone to shit. So there's always something happening right in front of your face. You just don't see it. And you're not supposed to see it. Because the whole point of the armed forces is to keep the people calm. Because when people are not calm, they get crazy and they do stupid things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
So,
unrest, yeah.
Yeah. So, and you don't want that. And clearly what's happening at the border, you know, we've seen it unfold for years. And now you're seeing other things that are coming into effect, meaning that now Texas has just passed a bill that if, you know, they catch anyone here, they can deport them now. They couldn't do that before. And a lot of people get irritated. So why you can't just send them back? You have to understand that there's a lot of red tape in terms of, you know, deportation, immigration, and even people that are illegally crossing. Yes, it's against the law, but they still have rights. And this is where, again, it comes back to America is not the big bad that you think that we are. Because if we were, then those people wouldn't even make it past the threshold. Because it's not like that in other countries. In other countries, they will shoot you on sight if you're there and you try to cross into their border. You've seen what happened in Poland. You've seen other parts of Europe. Now they're starting to get more aggressive. But before, it wasn't necessarily that big of a threat. In America, it is the biggest threat because not only are we, again, very large, very vastly large, and our border stretches across so many states, you also have to think about there's people that are coming here that you have no idea who they are. You don't know if they're connected to the cartel. You don't know if they're just citizens that got locked out of the country and couldn't get back in. You don't know. Now, in terms of them trying to get all those things taken care of, let me give you a little bit of perspective. Up until recently, let's say 2 or 3 years, did the average person really know how bad things could get? No, they didn't.
Right.
They were in their own world. They were comfy. They were not uncomfortable. They didn't even have to think about it. Now, all of a sudden, that things get a little uncomfortable. Now you freak out. Now you panic. Now you think that you're just stuck. Nothing will ever get any better. No, you're just forced to pay attention to the things that you should have been paying attention to many years before.
100%. That's a great point. And we have this like awakening happening, and then people don't realize that this has been happening for so long. Matter of fact, that's what we do at the Du Jour. We're realizing that this has been happening since 1871. I'm really happy to hear a lot of people in our movement. When I say guys in our movement, I just believe people that are trying to find truth. Some people believe in Q drop. Some people believe just a military operation. Some people believe Trump is good, Trump is bad, all that. But either way, for our movement, they're just people that are just trying to fix the problem. And we're awakening, we're having this awakening where this information is like, how could have we been so asleep? But it was really easy. None of us really held anybody accountable. So for the Du Jour, as well as other assemblies we're learning in other states, there was a system in place. Our forefathers had a system, and that system is kept from us by design. So we don't know how our government works. Like you said, most people didn't know what Congress did, the legislative, the 3 branches of government, everything that Derek Johnson says is true. And you know what the worst part is, TX? People
What's
still
that?
won't look it up. They're waiting. They're waiting for someone to do it for them. And I'm like, this is the problem right here. This is the problem.
100%. You know, there's some people too that will be more than open and will tell you, no, I want to stay in this fantasy world, because it scares them to think that their whole world is just a bunch of fallacies. It's literally a combination of all of these things that is completely different than what you thought it was. I can understand you having to deal with that reality that, wow, this is too much. I can't deal with this right now. I just want to stay in this delusional world. Some people will be like that, but it goes back to my favorite line I've ever heard. The ending will be for everyone. And that's what that means. That's exactly what that means. You've come full circle now. When you say the ending won't be for everyone, meaning that not every single person is going to want to accept the reality that is in front of them. Many of them will still want to bury their head in the sand because it's too much. Because sometimes knowing what is going on around you all the time, there's a reason why some people, end up not being able to take it
for the long haul, because it is a lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, this is not sustainable.
No.
Right? It's not. But it's needed. We were given bread and circus. We loved it. As long as we had a government doing everything for us. You know, a lot of my rhetoric, I know you've been, me and you've been going back and forth for a while, so you get where I'm coming from. People get snapshots of me and they don't understand what I'm saying. And my small part is to get into this freedom movement and just explain that the red team, blue team situation has checks and balances that we don't hold them to, so they could just run amok. And we're in a car and the driver's drunk, and I can put on pom-poms all day and cheer on Trump all day, but then I'm not doing no service as a grown man. Hey, like, it's not on Trump. It's not on the military. Like, we have to take accountability and responsibility. You, Don, Script, all understand where I'm coming from with that, but I get a lot of backlash from our movement, man, because they have their hand out. They were told they were going to get just Sarah and the Sarah, and this would all be taken care of 4 years ago. And think about that mentality, my sister. Like, how ungrateful as an American they are, because this is all of us. We all pay taxes to this. This is not the cops' fault. This is not the military's fault. This is all our faults. We're here today because we were asleep behind the wheel, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. And this isn't just us either. This is, 2 generations before us. This is our parents. This is our grandparents not paying attention to this. And if you really want to look at it from this point of view too, how much easier was it to manipulate people 20, 30 years ago when you didn't have the internet, when you didn't have different viewpoints, when you had literally 2 or 3 channels, you had 2 or 3 newspapers in rotation. It's very easy to control the information because you have no other opposing voice. This is why I have no problem speaking with moderates, libertarians, even liberals, because I don't mind having that conversation, because that's the only way that you get a perspective as to why they think the way that they do. Because if you constantly are, you villainize the other side for whatever reason because they don't believe every single thing you do, well, I'll be honest with you. You and I may not agree on everything, but we have that common goal, which is we just want to be left the hell alone. And dear Santa, all I want is my gross pay. That's all I want for Christmas.
That's it. Yeah, you nailed it. You're a conservative, right? That's what you call yourself?
I would definitely say that in terms of voting for policies, I'm definitely a Republican voter, because I do believe that a lot of what they do when it comes to policy wise, whether it's the smaller government and it's the preserving the 2A, I'm all for that. Now, there are other things that, I don't necessarily agree with. Like, I don't think the government should be involved in your marriage, regardless of whether you're gay or straight. That's nobody's business there. I understand why they are, because that does limit a lot of, issues like, polygamy and things like that, where women are abused within the marriages. So I do understand that. I understand there has to be balance. And I'm willing to have conversations with other people. But yes, if we're talking about voting, yes, long story short, yes, I'm a Republican voter. Yes.
I mean, there's only two flavors. So it's
right?
that's the problem. Like, I sent you something today. Well, I sent the whole group today about Ron Paul, and what an unsung hero that guy is, right? Like,
he's awesome.
You see him getting booed?
He's awesome. He's one of those people. I will say this. He is one of those people. Imagine a world if, because he ran against Obama, right?
Yeah, 2020.
Can you imagine a world where he won? Oh my God.
Like, yeah, but I'm a little worried. Yo, TX, I'm a little worried with our neighbors because we're a little reckless. The society's sick. I was saying, my friend Bill, who is in the NYPD, he was just explaining that there's 2 sides to this, right?
There is.
And a lot of times you see me giving a lot of shit to the NYPD, but it's not to go after them. It's just
you're not shitting on the people. You're shitting on the institution above the people.
I love you.
That's what you're doing.
So I appreciate you saying that, my sister. Of
course,
but we have to talk about the society. The society's sick. The society's sick, my sister. I'm sure you fought for this. When you came back and you fought for this country, and these people are ungrateful fucks. Excuse my language. It must bother you, right? Because you've seen some real shit. Like
it's
it must bother you, all these typing tough guys online talking all this shit. Meanwhile, you see.
Oh no, my favorite part is seeing comments from people that say, oh, I don't really respect female vets because, you guys don't really do anything. I was like, okay, what did you do?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about me. I said, well, I'm going to let you have your opinion because you have that right to talk so much shit because of all veterans, not just males, not just females, all of them.
That's
And
right.
yeah, it is a little disheartening. I'll tell you this. There's the reasons why a lot of veterans, why we stick to ourselves, because we've seen just how we've seen civilian behavior and we've seen how some, not all, obviously, some how they treat each other. And it can be very sickening to look at and to think, wow, I could have died in the desert and never came back. And here you're saying that America was never great. Okay,
Right.
well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. I just know that if shit goes sideways, you're going to be running behind people like me. So
Right.
it's fine.
And it's gonna, that's very important. That's very important. People don't understand. My New York City's a little weird because I already see that there's going to be mayhem here. Some people in the movement disagree with me. They think this is all pantomime. I believe we're a few propaganda pieces away from shit hitting the fan. Also, too, they created this Hunger Games where people now don't have any more time in these hotels anymore, so they're in the street. They went from rich soiled areas in South America to the concrete of New York. It's mind-boggling to me why they didn't fight for their country. But who knows? When Democrats took over New York, people ran out to Florida, people ran out to Texas, and I hope they vote alongside Texas values and Florida values. If you did move to those states, guys, please vote along freedom. Please do that. Don't go there and ruin these beautiful states that are fighting back, holding their elected officials accountable. You see what happened to New York. My sister's from TX. TX is from Texas. Do you see a change from the people coming from California into your state?
I would say the biggest changes that I do see, besides the up and I'd say a lot of the value that's here. I mean, Texas is already booming. We have a very booming economy in terms of all the businesses we have coming here and a lot of new construction and things of that nature. A lot of people that have come here, believe it or not, I mean, they love this place about as much as the Texans do. So that's always really great to see. And you see that culture shift from them being in those places where, they have crackheads outside of their front, their window, and they're worried about, getting mugged. And it's like here, they see it as, oh man, I saw this place get broken into, but the guy had a gun and now, the guy ran out. It's like, yeah, that's how it is here. We don't, things are different. So I do love seeing people that come here and try to assimilate to the South as the best way they can. And yeah, of course you have some people that still have that warped mindset, but they go to Austin and then they usually get a reality check and then they get better.
Yeah, Austin, bro. Wait, so you ruined California and then you go, okay, I don't know what happened. It wasn't my voting at all. I didn't do this. It was the Republicans over there. I don't get it. It's a sickness. It really is. And
a lot of them just need a reality check, and I think I made a video about some of those migrants going back home. And it's like, because they weren't here in search of the American dream. They were here because they were looking for handouts. That's honestly what it is. Because if you were really here seeking asylum, we've seen people come here for asylum. We didn't give asylum to people of Cuba that actually needed it. We didn't give it to people of, Venezuela that really needed it, but yet you want to give asylum to people that you're not vetting. So it's not seeking asylum. It's you coming here because you think you're going to get the red carpet kind of treatment. And that's clearly not the case.
Right. That's what's happening. Yeah. Eric Adams is trying to smoke them out that way, where it's like, now you got to fend for yourself and they can't get work and they got their handout. The only messed up thing is that from what I'm hearing, they were invited. There was propaganda on their end telling them to come. And this is where it gets, I want to get into the juicy stuff, but so this will be my last one on the migration. Could there be people stealing that land over there? And while we're all fighting with them, could there be eminent domain happening over there? So they're moving mass amounts of people out.
I wouldn't say it's anything about the eminent domain. I say this is more so geared towards them thinking that they are going to get everything that they were promised by a lot of these Democratic politicians. They're just
voting?
going where the money is.
You think
They're
voting?
going where they think that they're going to get something without working for it. Because I mean, just think about what we were just talking about, like the average American here, a lot of them, like they would rather just take a handout. Like I said, I don't think it's anything with eminent domain. It's more so like them just coming here from what they've been promised from other politicians, because we've seen this before. It's kind of the same thing that happened during Obama. Like as soon as Obama was elected, you had a lot of these migrants come into the country. So it's not really anything new. It's the same tactics recycled over and over again, just like with Palestine and Israel. It's the same thing recycled over and over again. This isn't the first time we've talked about Palestine and Israel, is it? Because I remember in 2021, we were talking about that too. Do we not remember? I do.
100%. I mean, even when we were kids, I mean, you remember Yasser Arafat and all that shit that was going down. So this has been I think you're touching on the playbook, right? Enjoy the show, the playbook that they continuously, they keep 100%. Using the fear tactics. And you ready for some juicy stuff? Can we
Let's go. Let's go,
all right.
Man.
Good. So we both agree that there's something happening in the background and stuff like that. Do you believe that this is a operation that is just an awakening where there'll be no problems on American soil? Do you see war spilling over here? Do you see this invasion getting kinetic in any way?
I will be honest with you. The main reason why there's never been attacks on U.S. soil is because the terrain here vastly changes from state to state. And in order to organize any type of attack like that, what the tactics that you would use for that type of warfare, let's say in Texas, is going to be extremely different than what you'd have to use in California, what you'd have to use in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Ohio. You get where I'm going? The country is very, very large. Like, we know how large America is, with over 330 million people in the United States. To think of conflict happening here, some sort of war happening here, I think that type of thing to happen would take a lot more planning, and it would take planning on such a level that it would be, the payoff wouldn't be worth it, if that makes any sense. Because just because you take over one area, all it takes is for a few people to tip off someone else. And then you could completely cordon off an area pretty quickly. And I'm telling you this, you don't ever want Marines unleashed on U.S. soil.
All right, so I'm glad you said that, and that's actually because part of the Q movement, part of the storyline is martial law takes place, the military takes over, and I was just listening to a gentleman, because I watch a lot of the videos on this stuff. I keep a tab on it.
Right.
My page is not focused on it because I just feel like that we need to take a little responsibility. I always have to give that disclaimer. But on my off time, I watch a lot of it. And the guy Juan Savin says that there's just 15 to 20% of veterans that are home that would not be okay with military taking over in any way for a vast amount of reasons. So can you give a little understanding on why that would be a bad idea if the Marines were unleashed in American soil?
Well, you have to understand that the Marine Corps is something that you unleash when you don't want essentially grass to grow back where you're at. And what I mean by that meaning is that you're not bringing them in to have anyone be taken alive. Like, that's just not how that works. The type of threats that you're talking about, where United States Marines are actually on U.S. soil, that means that every single thing is just, that's it. Like, all hands on deck, everybody's getting their hands dirty. Like, this is some serious type shit. Now, the reason why a lot of veterans would not want martial law is because we're well aware of the devil that runs a lot of things. We're well aware. We know that. We know the MO. We know what happens. It's more so of a thing that we don't want things to get too crazy. And at the end of it, if you're talking about a lot of these service members that take that oath, I'll be honest with you, a lot of them, if they have the choice between turning against you and turning against, the government, they're a lot of them they're not going to turn on you. They're not going to do that because they're just like us.
There's a lot of my veteran friends say the same thing. So what could, being that you do believe there's a military operation, an awakening setup, what do you tell those people that are home that may have not been in the military, that are cheering on some type of martial law? as a good idea, what would be some advice you'd give them?
You do not want anything that is going to inhibit you from trying to live your life as normally as you possibly can. You don't want that. You do not want that. Because this is not going to be something that you think is just over quickly and overnight. Absolutely not. Now, I know that people are constantly just, wanting things to either fall apart. They want things to collapse. They want things on fire. No, you don't. Because it's easy to destroy things. It's harder to fix them. And the area that we're going to now, when you're talking about martial law and things of that nature, is that if martial law has to be invoked anywhere, it's not going to be over quickly. And think about COVID. Do you really want to live that shit again? No, you don't. Because it's not going to be, oh, you can't leave your house because of your mask. No, it's get your ass back in your house. You're not authorized to be outside. You don't want that. And I think a lot of people are freaking out and they constantly have this apocalyptic way of thinking is because, again, we're going back to religious manipulation, right? It's very hard for me to take seriously any sort of organization that thinks they're going to fix modern day problems when their entire belief system and everything that they go off of is primarily based in an apocalyptic way of thinking. If you think that the world is always going to end, what incentive do you have to fix it?
Powerful wisdom. I think you're touching on two pieces right there. Are you familiar with the belief system of the Q movement? That I believe a military operation at the end. They hold, and that was always because myself had to be educated, right? Well, years ago, 4 years ago, I was talking to my friends that are veterans, and they go, and I tell them that part of the story, right? EBS, military, and they say, oh, you got to watch with that, man, because it's like what you said. So I heard that in 2020. You're telling me now in 2023, as a veteran, it's not what you think it is, and it doesn't end quick, right? They have to. The concerns are that we have people among us that are sleeper cells that will get their orders and start havoc, and they will basically overthrow. Let's just say if it's New York, the NYPD quickly with mass unrest, where the National Guard would have to come in, call in more troops because of mass unrest in the cities. Do you see something like that possibly happening?
I think that right now, in terms of where you are, it really does depend. Obviously, in a place like New York City, it's very highly congested, very densely populated. And I would more so be concerned about any sort of your political officials that do not have your best interest at heart, because a lot of them are really just itching to get you to just kind of sit down, obey, shut up, like, we're going to do what we're going to do. Not to say there's not a one size fits all. If something like that is going to pop off in terms of like martial law, again, you got to think America is large, very large, and you do not have enough people to perform something like that simultaneously. So that's why it would have to be, it's a pick your battles type of thing. Like we're talking about the Hunger Games, right? What's the strongest district? 3, right? Like, 3 is the biggest district. There's a reason why 3 is the largest district. There's a reason why 3 is the biggest threat. It's got Texas. It's got the entire South. It's got Florida. Think about all these largely populated areas. Not only are they large, but they're spread out. You're not going to try to wreak havoc in an area that is not only large, but the people are well spread out. You have to do something like that in a city that is extremely chaotic and has already have its just up to its knees in corruption already. So
New York City.
Yeah, New York City. Be like New York City. Chicago, I wouldn't. Chicago's kind of a hit or miss just because they already have so much going on. It wouldn't be worth it for them, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Chicago would not be worth it. I'll be honest, LA probably wouldn't be worth it. They're going to have to do it in some place, like New York City, because as we've seen, it's just how it's set up.
Yeah.
I mean, the island of Manhattan alone, it wouldn't take much.
Right.
Close down a few bridges.
That's it. Exactly. So the terrain. Exactly. New York City is very weird because you have Long Island, you have the peninsula, and then you still have to go over a bridge, whether it be the Throgs Neck, Whitestone Bridge. Depending on where you go in the Verrazano, you have to go through the city through the Verrazano. But we're talking bridges all the way. So if you're in Queens, the only way out to the mainland are bridges. So, like you said, it would be a couple bridges, and this they can get control, whether good or bad. They can get control. So
Yeah, it's like Gotham.
yeah, you know, I have a hard time with a lot of the doomers because they spend so much time. I know you love this topic.
Yes.
We'll get into it. So
Yes.
I have a hard time because I feel like that you have all this time to complain, to say that we have no shot, and you have yet to do anything. And I have a hard time with that because, you know, for your family, fine. You don't want to do it for your country, fine. For your family, for freedom, for your children. Why are you not trying to at least do whatever you can? So at least you know you gave it the good try, whatever it is.
100%.
You know, you fight with them a lot. What's some advice? What's some productive advice that you can give doomers to get them out their state?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I would say my biggest part of any bit of advice I can probably give a doomer would honestly have to be all that energy that you're using with this apocalyptic mindset. Every bit of energy that you are using to constantly shut down and just you see all this darkness. Ask yourself, then what's the point? You know, you're doing all this, you're freaking out about this, but if you're not going to do anything, why would you even voice it? Is it just because you want to hear yourself talk, because you're giving yourself some sort of comfort? You know, you feel as though, okay, well, there's no point. I mean, I did what I could do, but did you though? Now, I will say that some of these people that are in these positions of power, some of them, yes, very intelligent. However, I do disagree on saying that they're masterminds. They're not. They just think that you're stupid. And for the most part, many people are stupid because they can't recognize pattern recognition. They can't recognize the same tropes being used over and over again. That doesn't make them masterminds. That just makes you, that makes you sleepy. That's what that makes you. Now, again, there are some tactics I will applaud. But you have to think of it like this. If you know that someone is easy to control just based off of rattling a few scriptures or just by giving them this impending doom mentality, then that doesn't make you a mastermind. That just makes the person that you're manipulating an idiot.
So then, all right, then we have a lot of idiots because I see some of the moves and I watch these people get funneled back into things. Even the belief, you know, I know you like the policy of the Republicans, but but I know you're probably very upset with the Republicans, right? At this point, I mean, they're obviously.
I mean, honestly, I'll say that I'm pretty disgusted with everyone.
Everybody, yeah, across the board. So I understood what you meant with the Republicans. Like, at this point, it's the same plays, right? These people are not we don't have a government for the people, by the people right now.
You don't. And it goes back to what 45 said, you know, he said it doesn't matter what party controls your government. It matters that the government's controlled by the people. And that is true. It does not matter what side of the party that you're on if your government isn't working for you like they should be.
100%.
At no point should you ever be afraid of your government freezing your bank account. You should never be afraid of those things. And if you ever give your government that much power, then you have to hold them accountable. And how are you going to hold anyone accountable if you're too busy sitting there dooming and glooming about things that you cannot change on your own?
Right.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's going to happen.
We live in a society where people, they want us to evolve, but you don't want anything to change. How will that happen?
It can't happen. It definitely can't happen by going on Facebook and complaining that the Democrats are your problem or the Republicans are your problem, or you know, this boogeyman, that boogeyman. There's always a boogeyman, you know, and it's like like you said, maybe it is us. Maybe you are right. Maybe they're not that smart. We're just that stupid. And I think that's you know, there's wisdom in that. So we have so I mean, we're in interesting times because as we're shaking this cage in America, people are waking up. So I love this, right? There's a part of me that loves this because we see how asleep we were and how we're waking up as everything gets tightened. You know, you kind of always say this is like the Oompa Loompa theme song. New York City is getting stretched, and now you're forced to perform, right? Some places need it more than others, but that concerns me too because some places are still rocked to sleep.
Yeah.
by just giving bread and circus. You see, I have a lot of friends that moved to Florida, and they're like, they don't even know what was going on in New York. Like they don't even feel any of that. I said, but
Wow.
should they? They should they? I mean,
Yeah.
they're not living a life where they're asking government to be part of their everyday life. My sister, you're in
Yeah.
Texas. I mean, is government in every aspect of your life, every decision you're making? Are you giving?
I mean, I will say that they're pushing for, the school choice. I mean, we had the constitutional carry like a while back. So there's a lot of good things. So we're finishing the border wall. I don't know if you know that, but Texas is actually finishing the border wall. So we've got all that going on. We've got more law enforcement down there. We have them actually, like I said, the bill where they're actually going to deport people back to where the hell they came from. So there's a lot of things that happen. And I'm not upset with people that don't 100% know about everything that's going on in every state. I totally get that. Because I'll be honest, I don't know what the hell goes on half the time in, the Pacific Northwest. Why would I? That doesn't necessarily concern me that much. Not saying I don't care about it, but directly or indirectly, it's not going to affect Texas, is what I'm saying, because we are in a different type of spectrum. Now, you should be aware of what's going on in your neighboring states, because that will help you determine and gauge what's going to happen for you. If it's going to head your way, if it's not going to head your way, you want to know about those things. But I feel like way too many, and we'll just say influencers, content creators, freedom fighters, whatever you want to call them. I feel like some of them now are still trying to make it seem as though there is no end in sight. There is no hope. And having that type of mentality is what's never going to get you out of the hole. Because if you think that this is the worst that it's ever been, I mean, I beg to differ, because think about what they were dealing with during, World War I, World War II. I'm sure that they were sitting there thinking about that this is the worst that it's ever been. No, it's not. It's nothing new under the sun. It's literally not. It's nothing new. I don't even think that people have really regressed or progressed, to be honest with you. I think how we are now is exactly how we've always been. But depending on who controls the history, who keeps the history, are you going to report about all your village idiots? No, you're going to make everyone seem as though they were all intelligent. They were all just top tier citizens. For example, think about COVID. How are they going to write about COVID?
Right.
How many different versions can you write about COVID? Now think about how many different versions there were after the Second World War. Think about how many versions there were of Pearl Harbor. Like, the victors write the story. And right now, if you're going to tell me that there is no end in sight, there is no hope, well, what about all those other countries that have every excuse to give up, but they're not?
Yep.
I mean, Italy just got their first, conservative president. They never thought, prime minister. They never thought they were going to see that. You have an Argentinian president now that's never thought we'd see that.
Right.
So you cannot say that there is no hope, because if there was no hope, then people like us wouldn't exist. The need for your propaganda and your censorship wouldn't be necessary. You would just follow blindly. So what you're doing and what you're experiencing isn't because they're masterminds. It's only because either you have given up or you still can't see the pattern or the same story that's been told to our parents, to our grandparents, probably even before that.
It's watching the older people get the shot and family members. It's about the patterns that you're talking about, not being able to see government patterns, the same play, using fear and stuff. And it's really rough to watch when it's right in front of us like that, right? They're using fear and the same tactics and our loved ones just falling for it. And then even accusing us for being mindless or not caring about grandma. Yeah, it's messed up. TX, I want to thank you for coming on. Can you give, for the people that are watching, can you give them some words of encouragement as all these world events are happening? A lot of people are scared because their lives have never been rattled before. Can you give some words of encouragement for the people watching today?
Of course. How about that? I've got trains and stuff back there. Oh my goodness. I know that it seems very dark, and I know that you feel like there is no end in sight. I know you feel as though it can't possibly get any worse. I can't take anymore. It's too much. But I want to remind you of something. At any point that you think that there truly is no end in sight, you truly think that this is it, then why would there still be good people that are willing to give everything they have for people they don't know. Why would they do that? Because I'll tell you this, it's not for the money, because service members don't get paid that much. So why would we do it if we didn't care? And think about every first responder you know that's still out there when they have every excuse just to say, man, to hell with this job. But they do it because they believe in something bigger than themselves. They believe that this place, this home that they have, you lose this, you lose everything. We go down, the world goes down. That's why every country around the world is, believe it or not, they're just hoping that we get through this. And we will, because this isn't the worst. It can always get worse. And as long as you keep fighting the good fight and think about all the people that came before you, this really isn't that bad.
Powerful word. So are you saying the best is yet to come?
Of course.
Let's go. Let's go. TX, where can they find you online, TX? Where can they find you? What are your handles?
You can find me on IG, txqd.17. I'm on there. I also have a backup account there. The link's in the bio of that Instagram account. I'm on Twitter. You can probably find me somewhere on there too. It's the same exact handle. I'm not really on there as much. I mostly just post memes. But yeah, no, get on there, send me a message. I love having conversations with people. It may take me a second to reply, but I try to stay as active as I can on stories. I am on a little bit of a restriction right now from IG, so I haven't really been able to go live or anything like that, but I'll definitely be back. I've been here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm actually pretty surprised this account has held up as long as it has. Let me not jinx myself.
100%. And she's, guys, for people watching, she's one of my favorite people to follow on IG. Please follow her. She also helped out all the freedom fighters in New York City when we were being restricted and people weren't getting the word out. TX is one of few people that actually helped us. So we have the utmost respect for TX. Also, thank you so much for fighting for our country and serving our nation. It was just Veterans Day, and I prayed for you, and I just want to tell you that we have the utmost respect for you in my household. And thank you for your service, man.
Much appreciated. Hey, like I said, anytime you want to have a chat, I'm always here. I'm always here.
Yeah, we got to do this often. Let's do this more often. I appreciate you, TX.
No worries, man.
Episode 12, and we are out.